Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses, and it is a much more positive outlook this week. Well, it couldn't be much grimmer than last week, but thanks to all of you that did tune in to last week's show, and for those of you who helped cheered up, I'm glad. But on what Calum proved potentially to be a tricky fixture, there was a treat in store for the Aberdeen fans as Duk served up some performance, helping us to a 2-0 win. Hey, I said I wasn't finished with the Halloween puns.
It's going to be a long month.
It could be longer if we'd lost, so at least we've got a win to talk about. And on Duk, I suppose, the sale of Cape Verde flags is going to go through the roof in the Aberdeen area, because I know the Macedonian ones did at the start of the season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I saw there was one in the red shed when we watched the goals back after Duk scored. So I'm actually a massive fan of that. And that's a little bit of colour, a little bit of spice to the situation.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to love a flair player, and there's always that excitement whenever he touches the ball, whenever he runs at the defence. But Jim Goodwin said in his post-match press conference that we were owed a performance. The performance maybe not 100% there, Callum, but the result in bouts definitely was. Oh, and we also got that added bonus of a rare clean sheet as well. Lots to be positive about on this week's show then.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we'll struggle to find any negatives. Well, I'm sure if anyone's going to manage, then it's going to be us, maybe mainly Glen. But regardless, we maybe wasn't the performance we'd have liked, but I don't actually care at all, and I'm sure nobody else does. There was a few shaky moments, but 2-0 win, clean sheet against the team that finished third last season, albeit, they had travelling and injury issues and whatever. Regardless, it was fantastic, and the fence was great.
Yeah, like you said, largely positives. You're right. I have found a couple of negatives, but I'll save them for a bit later on in the show, because I think you've got to look at the whole picture. We can't just laud what was a fantastic performance. There are just a few niggling things that are still lingering there. But on the team lines, Hayden Coulson out of the game with illness. Also, congratulations on the pending birth of his child. Thanks to C for that information as well. So if he's not in the squad for Wednesday, we know why. And also good to see that he's the child's going to be born up here to minimise the game time he's missing. And then also, as Steve said, that he'll be born a Red. So that's great to hear as well.
Of course, the more the merrier, in my opinion.
Indeed. And I just love how invested his dad is in this season as well, that message we got at full time.
Oh, it's great. He seems to absolutely love it, and I'm all for it.
Absolutely. And Jack McKenzie coming in at left back, no real surprise. And I think it's fair to say he more than filled that hole with a really excellent performance.
Absolutely. I wasn't sure whether it would be wing back or full back, but I was actually very, very impressed with Jack McKenzie. In his post-match interview, he said he still has work to do going forward. He wants to learn from Hayden Coulson and Johnny Hayes in training, which is probably clear to see for most Aberdeen fans, but it's good to hear he's still working at it. And defensively, thought he was absolutely brilliant and caused a few problems going forward too. So it was a bit of a surprise his inclusion when the team sheet came out, but I thought he was brilliant and probably his best performance in an Aberdeen shirt in a very long time anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into him in his performance a bit more detail later on, but Johnny Hayes was also missing from the squad. Not sure if that was through injury or illness. Leighton Clarkson replaced him in the squad, and Connor Barron and Duk replacing both Marley Watkins and Vinny Bizowen, who we did speak about last week about needing dropped. I'm not sure if that celebration from his goal, which we'll come on to, was maybe aimed at some of the criticism he's received from the fans in recent weeks, but if that's how he's going to respond to criticism, then I've got a few players I'd like to criticise and hope they respond in a similar manner.
Yeah, fair enough. To be fair, can't argue with Vinny's celebration. Really, there was some criticism, probably deserved. He probably knows that as well. But I think it was a little bit of fun in the celebration. But he also sometimes posts his Instagram photos with an ear emoji, and so maybe a little bit of both. But if that's the performance he's going to put in once he's dropped and comes off the bench and has an influence like that, then I'm absolutely okay with it.
Yeah, me too. And Calum, I tweeted out of the RTG Twitter account. So if you do follow us at RTG_podcast on Twitter, you'll have seen the tweet I put out on Saturday night. The results from the weekend's game really amplified the importance going into yesterday's match against Hearts. Obviously, Hibs hammered in Glasgow by Celtic, following up that maybe surprise defeat at Tannadice. So with them not picking up any points through the weekend, St Mirren also missing the chance to leapfrog Hibs by drawing with Derek McInnes' Kilmarnock 0-0 in Paisley. Aberdeen had the chance to capitalise on teams above them dropping points and close the gap to just 1 point on Hibs with a retrospective game in hand. But likewise, Hearts would have also had ambitions of sealing third outright for themselves with a game in hand. But for Aberdeen, on Hearts would have been a chance to go back above them in the league. And, I think Laurie mentioned it last week that for them, if they'd lost the game, which obviously they go on to do, they then, have gaps to teams around them that they will be looking at the end of the season. And I think the shoe is also on that foot from an Aberdeen point of view. And, after what we saw at Tannadice, Calum, there was really going to be question marks around Jim Goodwin and the squad, and could they deliver when the pressure and maybe to a certain degree expectation was on to go and get a positive result. And what was your feelings on the back of seeing the results on Saturday? Was your hope and expectation raised like it was mine?
I'm not sure if my hopes and expectations were raised. I think it's sort of added emphasis onto how big a game it was for us, and also Hearts too, I suppose. And obviously saw it as a great chance to go and gain some ground on the teams around us and the teams that we'll probably be competing with come the end of the season for those European spots. But I don't think my hopes or expectations were raised at all. If anything, I maybe thought, oh no, it's perfect. It'd be great, beat Hearts, rival, Hibs drop points, St Mirren drop points, and then for us to go and cock it up in the end on Sunday. But thankfully, not the case.
Not the case, but for the first 45 minutes, it was certainly, I don't know, it was a weird half because it lacked quality, definitely in the final third, but defensively, both teams didn't really cover themselves in glory at times as well. But the tempo of the game was kind of really set from the outset when Jaden Richardson flew into a tackle early doors. I'm not sure if that was on Andy Halliday. You might have had a better angle in this. Was it on Cochrane? This is the thing, because we don't actually go to games together, apart from the same supporters bus, but helps with sitting in two different stands. We've got different views on things, but some maybe thought he was lucky to escape harsher punishment. Was a yellow fair in your eyes? Because you'd have definitely got a better view of it from Section S. Yeah,
I thought it was fair. To be fair, I thought it was maybe harsh for Don Robertson to actually. Was it Don Robertson? Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
To get the card out so early on, because I thought that sets the tone of the game. I'm having a nightmare here.
Much like Don Robertson did.
Exactly. And in a game against Hearts, you never want an early booking because it often in the case that then that'll just be the precedent set throughout the rest of the game, and every challenge like that will be a yellow card. Even when some of them should have been reds. We'll get onto that a little bit later on. But I thought it was certainly a strong challenge. Yellow probably fair, but I was just a bit annoyed that so early on, the first challenge like that, straight into the book, get a yellow card out. But certainly no more than that. Definitely not a red.
No, I mean, it just looked like a very heavy challenge. I think maybe the reaction with it being kind of in front of the Hearts fans and the way the Hearts players reacted as well, and Robertson running over, I just thought, oh, here we go. What a terrible start that is. So I was relieved to see the yellow card, because obviously quite a bit of distance away from red shed that you couldn't see how good or bad the tackle actually was. But, a lot of our fans have called for Duk to start games. I've kind of had my reservations that he's better maybe as an impact sub against tired defences. But again, showing why I'm not a football manager, because what an impact he did have in the opening exchanges. Maybe fouled in the middle of the park, and one thing Don Robertson did do right was play advantage. And then he was brought down. Well, I certainly thought he was brought down and was screaming for a penalty. I thought it was an absolute stonewaller. I think you did as well, but on reflection, when I watched the highlights on YouTube this morning, because Sportscene didn't show it, I actually think for once I'm going to say the referee got it right because I don't think it was a penalty.
I was certainly in the same situation as you, so the view from Section S didn't change that at all. I thought it was absolutely stonewall. Having seen it back, I still think we've seen those given, put it that way. Whether rightly or wrongly, we've seen those given. So on another day, perhaps we do get that penalty. But it wasn't as clear and obvious as I originally thought. I thought, because he missed that, there's no way that's not a penalty. But Duk travelling at high speed, maybe goes down a little soft. There's definitely some contact, but I don't know if it's enough to throw someone like him down like that. But did you say the bigger they are, the harder they fall, however?
You say on another day they'll be given. I suppose it's a good opportunity to bring it in now, is that maybe see next week they're given, because of course VAR is introduced to Scottish football from next week as Aberdeen make the trip to Motherwell. So more of that in Thursday's live episode where I'll be discussing the introduction of VAR with Gogsy ahead of that match. But Calum, what's your thoughts on VAR coming into Scottish football middle of the season when all the teams in the Premiership have also not played the same amount of games, and you've got Ian Maxwell coming out saying it's going to be horrendous for the first few months? A good ringing endorsement there from the chief executive.
Nae happy. I mean, look at VAR in England, still constantly getting things wrong, and they've got full-time referees on massive wages. They've got, you would think, the ideal infrastructure for it, and we're going to have absolute buffoons in charge of it in the middle of the season. As you say, when games, teams play a different amount of games, it's going to be an absolute nightmare, and I'm not looking forward to it. I think it was inevitable that it was going to come in eventually. Now, though, in the middle of a season, also when you're about to go into the break, surely maybe use the big World Cup break as a little bit more time as preparation. It's all a bit weird, and I've got no doubt that it's going to be chaos, and I'm not looking forward to being at the games and having to deal with the delay, or certainly not the anxiousness that's going to come with when for an opposing team potentially has a goal. Will it be disallowed? Are they going to get a penalty? Not looking forward to that whatsoever. And also in terms of us celebrating a goal, we're going to look like idiots celebrating a goal, then for it to be disallowed, and I'm not going to enjoy it whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, have you had experience of VAR at a game before? Were you at the Scotland-Israel game, the McTominay last-minute winner?
I was not, unfortunately. But even then, that looked like a faff, and that's at, qualification levels.
So my only experience of VAR has been with Scotland, and thankfully has been largely positive. Obviously through Scotland experiences, winning a couple of penalties on the back of the referee not giving them. But on that point about celebrating a goal, I had that with Lyndon Dykes in that Israel game when he scored and the referee disallowed it. You went crazy for about 10-15 seconds and going absolutely raging, thinking, well, that's never a foul. And then obviously the game stops, he checks it, and when comes to the monitor, you think, oh well, the decision is going to be changed, but you still don't know. And when he awards it, the celebration is heavily diluted because you're like, well, that initial release and excitement is kind of taken away by sometimes up to 2-3 minute check.
Already gone and cut short, basically, at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like, oh right. Even the players are like, oh right, okay, well, I guess we'll just go back to the halfway line. And also very convenient that it's coming in a week before our trip to Ibrox as well. I'm sure the conspiracy theorists out there will be loving that.
Yeah, sorry, is that a New Orleans Saints hat you got on our tinfoil hat, Glenn?
Yeah, well, can choose that one later. Back to the game from Sunday. We did look lively in the opening exchanges. I suppose also in terms of VAR, it would have been interesting to see if it had been in action on Sunday, whether or not we would have got a penalty in the first half. Not for that incident with Duke clashing with Jorge Grant, but the handball incident that the RDS seemed to go absolutely apoplectic over, which to me signalled there was definitely something in that. But once again, Don Robertson was unmoved and didn't award the penalty. Did you have any sight of it? I mean, I sent you the image of it last night on WhatsApp, which does make it look like it was a pretty clear handball, but in real time, did you have any sight?
I didn't have a particularly good view of it, but going by how mental the RES went, sort of had a good indication. I don't know, to be fair, Don Robertson possibly didn't have a great view of it either, which I suppose in that case, if they were to use VAR correctly, then would have been correct, because it looks like an absolute clear and obvious handball. They've got away with one there, but thankfully it didn't cost us, unless, of course, come the end of the season, goal difference comes into things, in which case that'll be even more sore.
True. And I'm just wondering where they're going to announce that the VAR checks are taking place. You see like Celtic Park, Easter Road, Ibrox, they've all got their big screens, or we're going to use the electronic advertising boards along the main stand. So those that are in the main stand are just absolutely clueless as to what's going on. John Mellis is going to be on the mic every 5-10 minutes saying VAR check in progress at this rate.
I can't wait, to be fair. I hope they do that in front of the main stand. That would be brilliant. Just so they can't see it, and when they've paid the most money to go. Sorry.
Yeah. I know, and it's certainly going to give us a lot more potentially to talk about when we try and get everything, crammed into an hour and a half. So that's going to be fun to look at as well. But as well as Aberdeen looking lively in the first half, it's fair to say Hearts also had their moments, and probably the best moment of the first half, where some good work down our left-hand side resulted in the ball falling to Alex Cochrane, and somehow, after ghosting past Jaden Richardson, he failed to put the ball into the back of the net. I still, every time I see it, don't know how he doesn't put Hearts in front.
I have absolutely no idea. I didn't see it at the time because a little small tangent rant here. Went to get a pie, ordered 2 chicken curry pies, one for me, one for my dad. We're given 2 Scotch pies. What's going on there? It was the 25th minute or something like that. They can't have run out. They didn't explain anything. Got there, and the Scotch pies were rubbish as well. So that was fantastic.
Well, side note before you go back onto that is that Ian did say they both smelt and looked amazing. So I'm sure you would have really enjoyed it, but not possibly, that you'll get a chance to know.
Possibly, but I wouldn't fucking know, would I, Glenn?
No.
So, shout out the Section S kiosk once again.
I'm glad you've got your weekly pie rant in. It's almost like our own little feature now.
I know. But anyway, I was up there, so I didn't see it. And the Hearts fans actually started celebrating.
Yeah.
Because I think they just thought, there's no way he's not going to score. And somehow he did absolutely cock this up. But it shouldn't have got that far. Because before the ball comes across, Jaden Richardson is actually in an okay position to defend Alex Cochrane. And then he just sort of switches off, and Cochrane drifts in behind. Richardson nowhere near him. And once again, showing Jaden Richardson's lack of defensive ability. But other than that, I sort of thought he actually had a decent game because he was high up the park and had Ross McCrory behind him as cover, so he wasn't too exposed. But how Cochrane did not bury that, I have no idea. And it's an old cliche, but had he scored there, it would have been a totally different game.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say more of, instead of defensive ability, more of Jaden Richardson's defensive awareness, because I think it's all too often that he gets, attackers, ghosting in behind him. I suppose a defender would be right in this instance with Alex Cochrane, but we also had a great opportunity that maybe some would have felt Duk should have scored when Majowski capitalised really well on a poor bit of play by the Hearts backline and fed him through for a one-on-one, but Craig Gordon does Craig Gordon things, and to be honest, it is a fantastic stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig Gordon's a bloody pain in the arse, isn't he? It's annoying how good he is. Still can't kick a ball, but very good still. I thought at the time Duk should have maybe done better there. Perhaps could have maybe gone Craig Gordon's other side near post rather than across him. I don't know if that would have made any difference. But I haven't seen it back. He didn't do that much wrong. And Craig Gordon, it's so annoying. He's huge. He pulls off fantastic saves like that all the time. And I can't even blame Duk that much. I mean, it was good build-up from Majowski to, nick in there, win the ball after Civic's loose pass. And also slot through Duk with a perfectly weighted ball, to be fair, who did well then to skip past the Hearts defender. But just frustrating. But thankfully it didn't matter, and he made them pay later on when he got that chance. Yeah,
absolutely. But Hearts, continue to look lively at the other end, exposing some of our frailties. Obviously, we went with a back three, which by and large looked more solid than in recent weeks, but Hearts still managed to create some opportunities. I think back to the opportunity Lawrence Shankland had where he fired wide at the near post. Again, Jaden Richardson getting dispossessed on the right-hand side and then just kind of seemed to just stop and stare as the play continued with Bojan Miovski trying to do the defensive duty. But thankfully, Lawrence Shankland's attempt went the wrong side of the post. And then I'm sure it was Shankland again who had the opportunity towards the end of the half when he goes to lob Keller Rose, and Rose makes a good save. But for me, that's more question marks around Rose himself, because at the time I didn't know why he was coming out for the ball. I didn't ever feel he was getting it, and if it had gone over him and into the back of the net, I felt he left himself very exposed there. Just initial reaction at the game itself.
Possibly. I mean, had it been a yard higher, it was goosed because there's no way Keller Rose was going to get to that. But I mean, in the eventuality that, Shankland did try to lob him, I think Rose did quite well to sort of rush him, close the angle maybe a little bit more. He didn't have too much time to think about what he had to do, Lawrence Shankland. And in the end, pulled off what was a fantastic save. And thank God he's absolutely huge.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, he pulls off the save. So there's not a problem. It was just that initial heart in the mouth moment when I seen him coming running out and thinking, he's not getting there once again. But potentially a good point you make there, because it does rush Lawrence Shankland, because when he then once he controls the ball and looks, he's realizes he's got a 6 foot tall goalkeeper standing in his way. He doesn't have that time to think to maybe pick his spot and look to attempt to slot the ball past him instead. So yeah, I suppose it depends which way you want to look at that incident itself. But again, hindsight, it's not caused a goal. So it was just something that instinctively kind of caught my attention at the game. But one thing I wanted to pick up on from that first half, Calum, was something that you kind of were quite critical of from last week, was the kind of style of play that we had, in moving the ball up the pitch, getting the ball into that wider areas where we were quite slow to kind of exploit United. How did you feel we did in the first half in terms of improving that? Because I thought we were a lot quicker in our possession this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were. The execution maybe not quite all there, but we did have our chances at times in that first half. I still don't think it's anywhere near the finished product, but I was impressed with the more urgency, a bit more directness in the play rather than side to side, back and forth. It was better. I didn't think the first half was quality in terms of football, from either side, really. But I still enjoyed it. I think because both teams were sort of equally as bad as each other at times. So it's kind of still made it for a decent spectacle. But the quality was still lacking at times massively. Yeah,
as you said, it made it weirdly entertaining, but equally frustrating. Due to the poor quality on show at times. But I suppose given the changes to the Aberdeen side, particularly on that left-hand side with Jack McKenzie and Leighton Clarkson coming in, I thought we more than held our own, because it was definitely an opportunity for Hearts to maybe look to exploit that area. But also pleasing to see Hearts continue to pick up injuries, especially to Andy Halliday. When you've already got a defence for them that's makeshift, to say the least, it probably didn't help their approach, him having to go off early. What a shame, I'm sure. But how did you feel that Leighton Clarkson did in that left mid position? Because I thought he did well, but he wasn't standing out, but he definitely did his job more than adequately.
Given the standards he'd set at times, I wasn't particularly impressed. I think he certainly did a job in the new system, playing with Barra and Ramadani, something that's been done at Tannadice. Other than that, certainly not before, given Barron's injury and then Clarkson's suspension. I think there's more to come. I know he's a very young player. It's a new system, new team, and he's on loan. He's got a lot to learn still, but I don't think he had his finest game. Some of his delivery, some set pieces, perhaps not the best either at times. But in terms of the structure for the team and how it worked out there, it was good, and it gave a bit more balance. Him and Barron both being in there, just allowing Ramadani to sit, who I thought had a quiet game, but probably went about his job pretty well.
Yeah, and I was supposed to be the negative one. Jeez, no,
What did he do? That was great. God.
No, I think it was fair, a fair assessment on Leighton Clarkson, definitely, and I think having both Leighton and Connor Barron in that midfield, I think you're absolutely right. It does allow Ramadani to have a so-called quiet game, but I think he's quietly effective in that position because he can just do the mucking up in midfield or put in a tackle, break up the play, or play a spectacular through ball to set up a goal as well. And then you're utilising both Connor and Leighton in terms of the creativity options. We know, as you said, the standard that Leighton set himself, what he can deliver. And we saw it briefly at the end of last season in his kind of cameo appearances from Connor Barron. The benchmark really set himself that Aberdeen fans are expecting from him week in, week out. And, some people maybe didn't think Connor had his best game yesterday, but I thought he was tremendous in that midfield, having to come up against Robert Snodgrass in particular. And listening to him on Red TV at full time this morning when I was listening back to the interviews, he said he backs himself, whether it's Snodgrass, McGregor, whoever he comes up against, he backs himself to win that midfield battle. And it's great to see a player have that mentality at such a young age and be in our team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly a very confident young guy, and rightly so. Not only is he technically very, very good, I think the aggression in the midfield he brings as well. Not the tallest by any stretch of the imagination, but he puts himself about. I think at times, especially when Hearts were on the ball, I think by the way he had 61% of possession in the first half. That's the dogs barking in the background. At times, Connor Barron was simply just doing shuttle runs basically across the pitch, trying to help out. But the aggression he brings, as well as that little bit of creative spark and things like that, he's very well rounded. And I certainly thought, maybe didn't think Clarkson had his best game, so it did okay. I thought Barron actually played very, very well. And, had it not been for Duk, I thought maybe he would be in contention for man of the match.
Yeah, I just hope he signs that contract extension sooner rather than later as well. That's if you want to pick a negative out of Connor Barron, that would be the only current negative. But what I liked as well in that post-match interview that he does alongside Duk is the way he kind of stares lovingly at Duk during his speech is probably the way that all Aberdeen fans are currently staring and thinking about Duk as well. But he also alludes to the fighting mentality that he was really proud of the squad showing to get that win. And obviously he as well highlighted the importance to the defence on the clean sheet as well. So yes, last week was extremely frustrating. It's not going to be forgotten about from the fans for a while, but I think, certainly the sound bites coming out of the club from full time yesterday was they understood that the fight, the mentality needed to be better on the back of that, and we did see that yesterday against Hearts.
Absolutely, just thank goodness Lee Sharp wasn't doing any of the interviews. Just sort of briefly on Connor Barron before we move on, I think his performance in the game was highlighted by sort of how frustrated Robert Snodgrass got. I remember he fouled him sort of quite close in front of me on the side of the south stand, and I think that just shows Connor Barron's quality. Of course, Robert Snodgrass ageing, not a centre mid either, but you just saw how frustrated he got that this young kid was absolutely bossing him throughout the whole game.
Yeah, absolutely. And bossing at left back was Jack McKenzie. Obviously, we spoke about him briefly as well. Has he given Jim Goodwin some food for thought in the coming weeks? Potentially if Hayden Coulson does have to miss Wednesday and maybe weekend to come, who knows? Is there an opportunity there for Jack to kind of cement that left back position if he can continue that standard of performance?
I think so. It's hard. Coulson has been pretty good. I think he's better going forward than defensively. Jack McKenzie the other way round. I don't know who's going to nail down that side spot. I probably expect Hayden Coulson to do it. But certainly in games like that against Hearts, to know he can come in, deliver a performance like that, when they do have good attacking players, direct opposition, Alan Forrest, who's been pretty good this season, was very good last season for Livingston. The fact he can come in, deliver a performance like that, when he's not been involved in the team too much, not been playing that much football, it's certainly a very, very good situation to be in if he can stay fit and if he can start delivering more like that and take tips from Coulson and Hayes in terms of attacking play. It certainly helps out a lot. And I think also the balance of him playing at left wing back, but naturally being more of a left back, when Jaden Richardson goes, the fact he can sort of sit and provide a little bit more cover, a little bit more structure, a little bit more solidity, even though the balance in terms of attacking is maybe not all there, it gives me a little bit more reassurance.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a fair point all round. But on the game as well, a lot of the time we've had criticism about how poorly we've started first halves and, certainly getting going in games, but we had no problem getting going in the second half because boy, did we start very much on the front foot. Jayden Richardson, well renowned for his attacking prowess, or certainly going forward this season. But for all the hard work he did in the opening, what felt like 10 seconds of the half, it was that final ball, which was just kind of a carry on from the first half, that maybe last bit of action that just let us down. Poor pass, poor selection of choice led to then Hearts hoofing the ball up the other end of the park, where Anthony Stewart, I think mind was probably still back in the dressing room, but to be fair to Anthony Stewart, it was probably his only slack pass of the day, let in Humphrey, and Kel Roos was definitely alert, does very well to smother the danger and get to the ball first before getting the man to ensure that Don Robertson doesn't award a penalty. But yeah, I mean, all of that happens, I think, in the first 25 seconds of the second half. I mean, talk about frantic.
It was chaos and unnerving. It didn't help sort of anxiousness that me and I'm sure many others were having at the time throughout the game either, because defensively very, very shaky. Stewart actually got himself in a very good position to deal with the ball in the first place. It's been sort of well remarked that he's maybe not the quickest player, but I thought he recovered sort of very well, got in a perfect position just to put it out into the stand. And it looked like last minute he just sort of changed his mind and barely made any contact with the ball to put it back to Kel Roos. Which even then, even if he did make the correct contact, he had, I think, as well as Humphreys, there was Shankland as well in the vicinity, which I don't think would have been a great idea. But thankfully, Kel Roos was alert to it. At the time, I thought, oh God, they're going to give us a penalty just because it would be typical. But he did get a hand on the ball, thank goodness. I think perhaps had that been Joe Lewis, that might not have been the case, because how many times have we seen him come out and clatter somebody?
That's actually a good point. And I actually think as well, I'm sure I was speaking to a Hearts fan last night on WhatsApp, and he was very critical of Humphrey's role in that, saying that Humphreys was almost anticipating being taken down rather than being quite clinical and trying to just beat Roos instead. He was almost like he got scared and wanted to win a penalty. And I think Roos is quite clever in the way he kind of puts his hands towards the ball. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think he does clear the ball before he even touches the man. So yeah, again, it feels weird, but you've got to praise Don Robertson's judgment there to not award a penalty, but we're going to get onto the criticism of him later on anyway. But Jim Goodwin, quick to single out Anthony Stewart in his post-match comments as well, obviously for the criticism he came in for after last week's defeat. I know you were quite critical of him, as was many others, for him not coming out. I think it was until Friday we heard from him on Red TV, looking ahead to the game. But I think Jack Grimmer said, he's a bit of a no-nonsense defender. When we spoke to the Wickham Way, they said he's not a ball-playing defender. And obviously that is something that Jim Goodwin is trying to do to this team. And you can see he's not exactly comfortable, but he wins the possession in the air. He looks comfortable dealing with that physical battle in the air. And yeah, I thought compared to what we saw last week, it was a much improved Anthony Stewart. Yeah,
I think so. Anything with his upper body, he's absolutely brilliant at. The strength he shows, his aerial prowess, fantastic. It's with the ball at his feet where there is a problem, which, as you say, was highlighted prior to him even kicking a ball for Aberdeen. But Jim Goodwin did sort of take some of the blame for that, saying, well, I'm asking them to play that way. Mistakes will happen.
Yeah.
So I suppose credit Jim Goodwin in that way. I was a lot happier with Scales and McCrory both on either side of him, because I thought that means he'll be playing with the ball less. So that's ideal, because they're obviously both clearly a lot better, the ball at his feet. He is no nonsense in terms of his defensive abilities. It's just there's plenty of nonsense when he's ball playing. But other than that moment, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And even later on in the game, he went on a little mazy run and showed that he is capable of actually being competent with the ball at his feet. And I thought he dealt with Shankland and equally Humphreys at times as well very, very well. basically throughout the game. So I do give a lot of credit for Anthony Stewart for that. These mistakes will happen. Just thank God we weren't punished. And Kelleros, fantastic goalkeeping to prevent a penalty and probably a goal.
Yeah. And I suppose I seen someone credit Jim Goodwin for getting his tactics spot on. Obviously, Jim Goodwin back on the touchline with his appeal pending. So he'll be on the touchline for the rest of the month, making a difference, it seems, having him on the touchline. But do you credit Jim Goodwin for getting it tactically spot on? Obviously, that change defensively you highlighted there with McCrory and Scales playing either side of the Stewart. Goodwin himself saying, that probably helps him because both those two have good pace to recover if there is an issue. But throughout the game as well, how did you feel Jim Goodwin got on tactically? I don't know. I thought he did get his tactics pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Especially with having to do that reshuffle with the team down the left-hand side as well. Duk caused Hearts no end of problems. And then even the changes as well that he did bring on continue to affect not only injury hit, but tiring Hearts team. So, yeah, fair play to Jim Goodwin. For the criticism the whole team took last week, there seems to have been lessons learned.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think he got it spot on, sort of matched up with Hearts, nullified some of their threats. I think in particular Forrest down the right-hand side with Mackenzie opposing him didn't do too much in the game. I thought Ramadani was able to deal with Barry Mackay very well. He had a very quiet game.
Yeah.
And McCrory and Scales, both the balance they have with being able to play football out from the back, and then the cover they can provide for, well, mainly Jaden Richardson on that right-hand side, and also support they give to Anthony Stewart. I thought they did get it spot on. And in his post-match interview with Radio Scotland, I think Jim Goodwin said that Duk and Miovski playing together is something they're looking to do more. So now with Barron fit, Clarkson back again, and McCrory obviously fit, I wonder if that sort of three centre-backs with those three in the midfield might be something we see a little bit more. And
well, if it's going to produce results like that, then I'm definitely not opposed to it. But, as the second half kind of wore on, I did feel that we were going to be sitting here recording a 0-0 because the lack of quality in the final third was missing. But it wasn't for a want of trying, as both Bojan Miovski and Lawrence Shankland had chances that flirted with the bottom corner, but for both, they went just the wrong side of the post. Bojan's very unlucky when he threw himself at it, and Shankland as well with a deft touch, both just not failing to find the back of the net. But the game does change when Aberdeen managed to get in front. Jack McKenzie, I didn't notice this at the time. I only really noticed the quality of the ball, the Ramadani plays, but the video that we quoted on our Twitter page last night, and obviously subsequent comments about Jack McKenzie, that commitment, that desire to win the ball in midfield. Sometimes I've kind of questioned the 50-50 nature of Jack McKenzie, because I know obviously the impact his ankle injury maybe had on him, and that was maybe in the back of his mind, but he doesn't hold back going into that challenge, and he really sets up that goal by winning the ball back. And Ramadani just sees Duk making the run and threads the needle through the eye. And Duk, maybe not affected by that earlier miss on Craig Gordon, because that finish is excellent. We've spoken about how hard it is to beat Craig Gordon, but the video that the club put out this morning on Twitter, the sense of anticipation at the through ball, the silence, and then there's this sheer ecstasy as the ball hits the back of the net. I mean, the Merkland was just absolute bedlam, and I'm sure the rush to the fence was equally as good as well.
Oh, it was great. I really enjoyed that. Oh, I hope somebody clips that up. Oh no, I've just done it, so they'll clip that up as well.
Yeah.
Nightmare, rookie error. But in terms of Jack McKenzie, fantastic desire to get in there, win that ball, win that 50-50 against Robert Snodgrass, who probably should do better, but at the same time, McKenzie still has to go in there, win the ball against a seasoned pro, 35 years of age, clearly still in pretty good physical condition as well, and wins that ball. Ramadani, that ball has to be absolutely perfect. Too soft, it gets cut out easily by the Hearts defence. They probably go on a counter-attack. Too heavy, straight out for a goal kick, no issue for them. It's perfect. It's weighted perfectly. Duk does fantastically, as well as that chance he had in the first half. He also had another chance like struck with his left foot that Craig Gordon saved with relative ease when he got down. Didn't matter to Duk. He finally got it. He run them ragged all day long. They couldn't deal with his power. At times, once again, basically squatting, holding up the ball. Nobody can get round him at all. And absolutely delighted because he deserved that off that performance. And although both teams had chances, Miovski probably should have scored. Shankland could have scored. Don't think you could argue that it wasn't deserved. It was deserved. One of them. We deserved it.
Yes. We deserved the goal. Duk deserved the goal, more importantly. And I just love how passionate he is every time he scores, running into the crowd. I don't actually think he got booked for celebrating with the crowd as well. And it was in our group chat today. Could you imagine if he scores at Ibrox in a couple of weeks, just trying to get into the away end? I mean, that would just be unbelievable on the next level. But yeah, the strength, that's a good point you make there, because it was something that we mentioned yesterday. If you think Scotland fans love John McGinn's rear end, Aberdeen fans are going to fall in love with Duk's rear end, because, I mean, just the way he holds off players coming towards him is incredible. He's got a good... I think someone replied to me on Twitter last night saying his low centre of gravity is exceptional in the way he holds the ball up and manages to drive forward. And yeah, so from John McGinn's bum to Duk's bum, what a time to be alive.
I know, but he's just so fun to watch as well as all that. It's not just his physicality, like the strength, the pace once he gets going as well, but the trickery, the technique he's got. Clearly he's raw, but he's got all the attributes for me to be a perfect striker in this league. And hopefully, you know, if he keeps up his fitness and things like that, we could be in for a very, very good time with Duk. And I forgot to mention the fence there. Oh, it was beautiful, beautiful. The first sort of chance we had this season to sort of really get it up the away end. And it was fantastic. Even better because there was 4 Hearts fans in there that I knew. They are from Aberdeen, and it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. They took it in good spirits, to be fair. But, oh boy, it was good. It's great to be back.
It is. It really is. And the thing is as well, once that goal went in as well, I don't really remember Hearts doing much in the game. I mean, do you remember them having a serious threat on our goal?
No, not at all. All I remember around those goals is them singing "Cheat Shagging Bastards" and us replying with it once we'd scored. That's all I remember. I was maybe caught up in the bedlam a little bit. Thoroughly enjoyed it, but no, nothing of note.
No, neither can I. And I think as well, once we got that goal as well, our changes, as we mentioned as well, but earlier, Jim Goodwin's tactical approach to the game really helped continue to exploit a tired defence. Vinny coming on and having a real good impact, continuing that drive and determination at Hearts' defence, given the Duk was obviously beginning to suffer with cramp. But whether it be on one leg or two, he continues to run rings around that Hearts defence. And I mean, just that second goal is probably more memorable for me. I don't know if it's going to be your memorable moment of the match, but I think it'll be mine, because I think 2 minutes before he was sitting on his backside in the Hearts half saying that I'm done, I'm needing off. Gets himself back to the halfway line. The ball goes out wide, and I just got the sense that when he picked up the ball, he was like, I'm just going nowhere with this. I cannot be arsed running. Then he realizes there's nobody in space, so he just goes, fuck it, I'll just go for a run. And then I think Bojan Miovski does do well to distract some Hearts defenders, pulling them one way. And Vinny's in acres of space. Great ball from Duk. And once again, good composure and finishing from Aberdeen in front of goal. And yeah, once it goes 2-0 there, jubilation once again.
Absolutely. But even prior to that, I think credit definitely goes to Jim Goodwin for making that change, for bringing on Vinny. I think that's a very positive change in a game like that, where he clearly thought, Hearts are there for the taking, starting to tire. And if you're Hearts and you see, after you've had not a great game defensively, and then you see someone with the potential explosiveness, the pace, and the ability of Vinny coming off the bench, you're not going to be happy. And the Duk picking up that ball after sitting down, looking absolutely knackered, absolutely brilliant. Because he realised, as I say, he can go for a run. But I mean, full credit to Lewis Nielsen for his part in that goal, because so unbelievably soft defending. He had a chat when Duk first goes by him, unbelievable half-arsed attempt. Then a sort of a chance to foul him, just didn't. And Duke had all the time in the world to pick out that pass. Robert Snodgrass standing square on, while Tony Sibic sort of stood and watched as well, just leaving this massive gap for Vinny in behind. And credit to him for the finish as well as the celebration, of course, too. Because Craig Gordon's still a fantastic keeper. Still had a lot to do at that point. And that sort of wrapped it up for us. And I think had it not been for that, we might have had a little bit of a nervy ending. But calls rapturous celebrations and another one fully enjoyed.
Yeah, I think had that not gone in, it would have definitely caused a nervy ending, especially with the kind of horrific looking injury to Peter Haring with the head knock and then collapsing as he kind of walked off. And with was it 7 or 8 minutes of injury time that we got? I think at 1-0 that would have definitely been a nail biting finish, but not to be the case. But your memorable moment from the match?
It's actually not going to be the goal. Either of the goals. It's going to be Andy Halliday going down injured right in front of us in the south stand, which was quite enjoyable. But also the fact it seemed like I've seen the replays and it still looks like Jayden Richardson goes nowhere near him.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't think it was a foul at the time or can see what Jayden Richardson did if it was just the way he goes down. Part of the Hearts fan I was speaking to last night said he's done his Achilles, so he can focus on his podcasting career rather than his football career for the next wee while.
Well, I think it was helped because my pal next to me did start singing something about having a shite podcast, which could have been applicable to me, however. But no, it was just the fact it was Andy Halliday and he always has a horrid time coming to Pittodrie. We don't like seeing anyone getting injured, though.
But I'm not going to be disappointed at seeing Andy Halliday get injured. And I suppose I said it and I stand by it. But I suppose we are also lucky that we're not speaking about Connor Barron picking up a serious injury because, of course, for the praise that we have put on Don Robertson for some of the decision making, I'm still baffled how Jorge Grant did not receive a red card for what... I mean, again, it was probably just the excitement, hysteria that I was getting caught up in. Felt like a 2-footed lunge on his knee from the red shed. I don't think it was as serious as that, but unbelievable that he only finds a yellow card worthy of that challenge. But also, I think it was, I saw on Twitter, it was at Football Bag that picked it up. And I noticed it at the time, but didn't realise till the still that he tweets is that Liam Scales, the effort that he puts in to be the first man there to defend Connor in that situation when you've got a couple of other players just a few yards away. I mean, credit to Liam Scales, but yeah, horrible challenge that I think is baffling that didn't see red. Absolutely.
Should have been a red. I also think, though, however, that is also telling of the game Connor Barron had compared to the Hearts midfield, where he's a young kid. He's just absolutely bossed it. They're down 2-0 at that point, and he just goes storming in against, 21, 22-year-old and takes him out. Absolutely a red card, but take it as a compliment, Connor, because clearly they were frustrated with your performance and their own. So there you go.
Absolutely. Now, as I said, this was going to be a largely positive episode. It is a largely positive episode, I said, but there is something niggling at me from the game yesterday that I feel I need to get off my chest. So if you want to skip the next couple of minutes, feel free. If you want to listen to me rant, then stay tuned. Now, it relates to Bojan Miovski because for all the goals he has been scoring, I think it's fair to say he's been off the pace the last few games. Ooh, is that tinfoil hat back on? I hear you say, Callum. But I don't know. At times yesterday, I thought he was largely anonymous. I highlighted the kind of role he had in that second goal, taking the defenders away from Vinny. But I just don't know what he was offering yesterday. And I don't know, just is he unsubstitutable? I'm just going to make up words now as well. Would Christian Ramirez have benefited a run out? At the point where we're already winning 1-0, Bojan's not doing anything effective. And I'm just thinking as well, looking ahead to Wednesday's game, would you rest Bojan, give Christian Ramirez a start?
It's an interesting one. I think Ramirez could have definitely had a run out perhaps at 2-0. Anyway, if he wants to keep Bojan on until the game's sort of sealed and wrapped up, I don't know. It's a tough one because I think a lot of the time the balls he was receiving, he had to be physically strong, and that's not his game. But it's still somewhat of a criticism because I think in this league you do have to bulk up a little bit from, when he's come from Europe, where it's probably a lot more based on the technical sides of the game. It's very physical here. And look at Duk, how he handles it compared to Bojan, just getting nudged off the ball, going up for headers. I don't think he won one header. But on the flip side, that being too negative, I suppose, when he does score the goals that he does and in abundance, although having gone a little bit cold, it's hard to argue with it. And I suppose that's where the benefit of having a player like Duk compared to then Bojan, where his movement and things like that are so, so important in terms of the goals he gets. But I do agree that perhaps Ramirez could have benefited from a little 10-minute spell. I can't see him, Miovski, dropping out of the team on Wednesday. I don't know if he would benefit from it. You could be right because he's played an awful lot of football since getting here. Didn't have a proper pre-season, I suppose, to start with either, given the problems they had, with his work visa or whatever it was. So I wouldn't be against Ramirez benefit from a run out, perhaps with Duk, but then at the same time, when Duk's, cramping up come the 80th minute or whatever it was, I don't know what the likelihood of that happening is. And I can't see Miovski being dropped for the game at all. Hopefully we can get nice and comfortable though, and then make the change. That would be more ideal. Yeah,
and I suppose we're just going to come on to that game on Wednesday night in a second, but the point kind of really came about was because a discussion I was having last night was last season we went through the whole season with one striker up front, regardless of their form. I think that was obviously, down to the fact that we didn't really have any other choice up front. Obviously, we've got Duk as an option this season. He's kind of being more deployed as a winger, but you've also got a proven goal scorer on the bench. Yes, his tantrums, the saga behind him is maybe affecting the decision to play him, but I just think if there is option to rotate the squad, keep players fresh, we should be looking at it. But on Wednesday's game then, Callum, a bit of feel-good factor back after, of course, the win on Sunday. Hampden potentially on the horizon, will be on the horizon, of course, with a win on Wednesday. It might encourage a few more along that was maybe in two minds before the weekend. But would you make much or any changes to the starting 11 for the game on Wednesday night? Or is it a case of we go with that strongest possible starting 11?
If we are going to make changes, certainly wouldn't make much. Given that performance that we've just delivered, Partick absolutely no schmucks either, flying well in the championship. It's not a game to be taken lightly. There's big things at stake here. A chance to get to Hampden, and then once you're there, who knows what happens. I wouldn't go rotating for the sake of rotating. I mean, obviously, Mackenzie went off. Hopefully, it's just sort of tired legs at that point. If he doesn't play, and if Coulson or Hayes isn't back, then maybe you'd see Kennedy come on left wing back as he sort of did once Mackenzie went off. Other than that, you're maybe talking about Vinny coming back in for one of the centre midfielders if we're going to be a bit more positive, and then the strikers. It's going to probably be at least one of the two that started, and probably both. But I wouldn't be against Ramirez coming in for one of them, certainly.
Yeah, and I suppose for me I kind of agree. It's best in these games is to go with the strongest. The Wraith game probably still haunts a few, but you go with that strongest starting 11. And as you said, hopefully we become in a position that we can then rest players towards the back end of the game. If we are in a luxurious position to do so. But unfortunately, with the way that the end of the game went on Sunday, I'm just worried or concerned that there may be changes required. I was sure that Mackenzie did go off with some form of knock or cramp, so I'm glad you cleared that one up for me. Clarkson also, he looked dead on his feet when he was taking his seat on the bench as well. Duk obviously cramping up towards the end. Will that be kind of fine enough for him to regain his starting place on Wednesday? I do hope that he does. He is fit enough to play on Wednesday, because I think we've seen that impact that he has, that raw speed, that just general rawness that is not yet that rounded figure, and what potential is we could still unleash. But obviously with Hayes, question marks around his involvement, Hayden Coulson, question marks around his involvement as well. Is there going to be then, as you say, opportunities for the likes of Matty Kennedy, Vinny Bissauin, Marley Watkins also got a run out as well, so maybe back in the frame as well as a potential to come in. Obviously has started in recent weeks as well. Maybe something that Jim Goodwin's considering. But is there maybe fringe players wanting to knock at the door? I'm thinking the likes of Shaden Morris, Christian Ramirez falls into that category as well. We also saw Alfie Bavidge on the bench as well. Of course, he's been in fine goal-scoring form for the young team this season as well. I'm not advocating that he starts, but I think also should recognise that his contribution to the young team has led to him being involved in the first team. So that's great to see as potential other options for the future.
Absolutely. Can't imagine he'll play too much this season. I do expect him to make his debut probably at some point throughout this season, but I just think getting him involved, giving him a little taste for it right now when he's still, it's a key area for his development, not only physically, but technically and things like that right now. And I think it is important to get him sort of some experience, or at least being involved in this sort of match day squad on Saturdays or Sundays, as it turns out. It'd be interesting to see if things are comfortable, which I don't expect them to be really on Wednesday. If we can, give a little run out towards the end of the game. But in terms of wholesale changes, not a fan of it. Keep what's working, keep them together. We go again after Sunday because fantastic performance just about all round. I don't see any need in changing it ahead of such an important game.
Yeah, well, it is an important game. Hampden is on the horizon, but Partick pose a test to us. And to preview the game against Thistle, I've been joined by social media stars, I'll call them, Manpreet and Kieran Ashton. So, social media star, but also big Partick Thistle fan, Kieran Ashton is here. Manpreet was supposed to, but he's running a bit late, so he might join us a bit later. We're not sure yet. But Kieran, welcome to Red Tinted Glass. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. I'm looking forward to discuss the Wednesday's game.
Yeah, we've got lots to discuss as Partick Thistle make the trip north. Before we get into the game itself, how has the season been going so far? We're recording this on Monday evening, so at time of recording, you're currently top of the table, although Cali do play relegation fodder Hamilton tomorrow night. But you must be happy so far as a Thistle fan, seeing yourself sitting top.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've played well. So I think we've done really well so far. We've won 6 games, drawn 2 and lost 2. And as you said, we're top of the league on goal difference with Inverness. That'll probably change tomorrow night. They'll probably beat Hamilton, who we just bet at the weekend there on Saturday. But yeah, I think we're doing all right. It's been a season to look forward to. There's been kind of off the pitch matters with the board. We won't kind of get into detail with that. But on the pitch matters, it's certainly been really good.
It must be good when there is that distraction off the field that things on the field at least are going right. Was there a sense of expectation from Thistle fans this season that promotion was on the cards, or is that just an expectation that comes season in, season out until you get back up to the big time?
Yeah, definitely. I think last season was kind of obviously I think we aimed last season to get to the playoffs to at least make it there, and obviously we did. We unfortunately felt the first hurdle against Inverness. We lost in both legs. And I think with the signings that we made so far last season, I think we thought it'd be it made us think that something special would happen this season. And then obviously we went away to Dundee, first game of the season, and we bet them. But that's the title favourites according to a good
journalists for me on the opening day.
Apologies for that.
Not at all.
But yeah, and that was a good 3 points. You went away to the supposed league leaders and we bet them. So I think as soon as that kind of happened, then our performances in the Premier Cup as well, the Premier Sports Cup, I should say, sorry. We bet Kelly, albeit on penalties, but Premiership outfit. Yep. They came up for the Championship last season, of course. And ever since then, really, we just thought it'd be something special. We could build on something special this season.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's maybe something that can continue to build something special. Something special, I'm sure, for many Thistle fans. You yourself, as you said, pre-recording, that you've never seen Thistle play at Hampden, is the opportunity, of course, for Thistle to get to Hampden. Of course, Aberdeen hoping to do the same come Wednesday at full time. Is this seen for yourself as a welcome distraction from league, or something that you can use towards the league campaign later on if things go well from a Thistle point of view?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a kind of, I say that yes and no. I think obviously the league is probably the main priority. We do want to win the league. We do want to, at least gain promotion back to the top flight. But as as well as that, we're one win away from Hampden. You know what I mean? We're one game away from Hampden. That's as big an incentive any club, especially a club like Thistle, can ask for to get to Hampden. The last time we were at Hampden was, I think it was 2001, 2002. We unfortunately lost to Rangers that day. It'll be good to see Thistle back in Hampden. Covering it in red and yellow. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it is it's kind of good and bad. You know what I mean? It's good for momentum in the league as well. You know what I mean? You win. We go up to Aberdeen and at least make a good account of ourselves, and failing that, maybe more than that, we win. We get through to the next stage. That'll do wonders for the league. You know what I mean? So
yeah. And in terms of support, obviously this is an away game, and you sold out the initial allocation of 300 tickets. Something I'm sure some of our listeners wish Aberdeen would do from time to time is, I believe I'm correct in saying that free buses have been organised by Partick Thistle, so that supporters clubs are being subsidised to arrange free travel. So I think you're reckoning it'd be up to around 500-600 Thistle fans will be making the journey up north. So I know obviously subsidised travel is great to see, and maybe will have a little bit of an impact on that as well. But, putting to shame some of the teams that will bring up supports to Aberdeen on a Saturday during the Premiership season as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this isn't something that's, out of the ordinary for Thistle. We've done it. We played during I think it was the quarterfinals in 2017. Went up to Aberdeen on a Sunday, and again, the club done the same for that. Provided free buses, and we've done it for quite a few league games as well. I remember we done it in the top flight for the top six during the relegation battle, and obviously we got relegated. We won't get into that. But they put on free buses for the top six split games, and I don't know if they done it for the playoff games that saw us getting relegated. I'm not entirely sure. And then they've done it in the championship as well when it mattered most. So it shows that the club are quite good with that. So yeah, I think that's kind of made Thistle fans want to go to the games. It's certainly gave me the opportunity to do it. But yeah, it's looking like a really good crowd. I'm saying about what I was saying initially, about 500 to 600. It's probably looking maybe about 700, maybe even more than that. Because obviously tickets are getting sold on the day as well. On the night, you can buy the tickets there, and I think a few Thistle fans are doing that as well. I've seen quite a few saying that they are on social media and blogs and forums and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely think it will be a good away trip. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be a noisy away support as well.
Yes, as always.
Yeah, well tanked up on the way off the road, of course. But Thistle have been much better at home, I think it's fair to say, from what I've seen in terms of your league form. Currently unbeaten at home. Again, busting my coupon thanks to throwing away that 2-goal lead against Cove Rangers. But away from home has been slightly, maybe more problematic. Obviously, you alluded to that win on the opening day against Dundee, which maybe took many by surprise. But 3 wins, 2 draws, scoring 9, but conceding 7. Have Thistle found it a bit difficult playing away from home, or does Ian McCall look to play or set up Thistle differently when you go on the road?
Yeah, I think so. I think McCall tries to just play the way we normally do. Away to Queen's Park, that was the second away game of the season. Fair play to Queen's Park. They deserved the 3 points. They played us off the park.
The plastic pitch, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. We could. It was really hot that day, so I blame the weather as well. But the excuses are coming out now.
Yeah,
about a month late, but about a couple of months late. But I felt that's a kind of plausible thing, maybe. But and obviously we lost to Inverness, but we were down to 10 men. I feel if it was 11v11, it would have been a tighter game. It would have been a more even game. But yeah, I think that's true. But I would have definitely taken a home draw in the league cup. But I mean, away that you've got to take what the hand gives you. You know what I mean? So
I suppose when I was looking at that on Sunday night ahead of recording with you today, I was like, when I seen that you were unbeaten at home, I thought, oh, thank God we're not away from home. That potential banana skin, but I'm also thankful it's not away from home, because we would have probably ended up on TV. And some of these ridiculous kickoff times.
I'm actually surprised it's not on television, actually, because I think there's 3 games that are on.
Yeah, so we're the only game not on telly.
So I was very surprised. I was very surprised about that, but I suppose I think that's another incentive for fans to go as well, because they're not on the telly. So
absolutely, and I suppose you won at the weekend away from home, as you said there. You beat Hamilton 2-1. How do you feel going into this game on Wednesday with knowing that Aberdeen have kind of regained a little bit of their mojo, beating Hearts with that improved second half performance, especially on the way they performed at Tannadice? Does that give you a bit more fear and trepidation, or are you glad they've got that win out of their system before facing yourselves?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the latter, to be honest. I think I would be more worried if they lost, because then they would look at the Thistle game on Wednesday night and it would have been, well, this is basically our cup final, you know what I mean? We need to win, or Jim Goodwin would be in an immense amount of pressure. I don't know if people would be calling for his head after if he did lose, you know what I mean? And I'm hopefully thinking here, you know what I mean? Thinking hopefully. But I think, I was kind of like, a few people were telling me, they were saying, so they've kind of lost, or like kind of annoyed it, but I think looking at it that way, it's a lot better, you know what I mean? All the pressure's on you know what I mean? We've got nothing to lose. So, I think as long as we go up to Aberdeen, make a good account of ourselves, don't get completely embarrassed, I think it'll be a good night, and I'll certainly take up there and just, taking the game to you, you know what I mean? I think that's what I think that's like kind of what we have to do.
Well, interesting you say that, because that was going to be my next point, with you saying that all the pressure is on Aberdeen, and I think it's fair to say, you spoke about looking at the replies to the cup draw itself when it was made on Twitter, and seeing all the Aberdeen fans very confident, and I said to you pre-recording as well that I am in a confident mood ahead of Wednesday night as well. There probably is that expectation going into the game that Aberdeen are expected to win. Does that play into Partick's hands? And do you expect then Thistle to take the game to Aberdeen, or maybe to sit in and frustrate Aberdeen in the opening exchanges, and maybe look to get the crowd? We speak about this on an Aberdeen show. We'll probably be speaking about in a couple of weeks when we go to Ibrox, looking to frustrate Rangers. Is that something you think that Thistle might look to do instead, frustrate Aberdeen and get the crowd going against Aberdeen in a way?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of a mix of both, to be honest. I hope we don't just completely sit, like put 10 men behind the ball and part of the bus. I hope we don't, but I think we've got to be a bit conservative with how we defend, because we can't. I don't think we can go proper full throttle, but I think we do need to kind of take the game to ease as well. Hopefully it's a complacent Aberdeen side and not a confident Aberdeen side, because if it's a complacent Aberdeen side, I think we'll just it's Partick, Thistle will get through, you know what I mean? That's happened to us. We've faced lesser teams, and we've been put out or at least given a good, we've been very, very lucky to win games like that when we've played lower league sides. But I think it's just like Aberdeen. I don't think they can be complacent, but it's Thistle we're talking about here. So you know what I mean?
I know, and I suppose that was something that we spoke about in the first part of the show tonight. That just before you joined me, was that do Aberdeen, rest in inverted commas, I suppose, if you want some players. We were speaking about Bojan Miovski. Is this a game to kind of rest him given his poor form? Duke went off with a bit of cramp, so did Jack McKenzie. So I'm really interested to see kind of what Jim Goodwin goes with. Obviously the the Wraith game lives in the memory of kind of haunting us. And we've had experiences, especially at home, we seem to kind of struggle. Stenhousemuir took us to a replay in the Scottish Cup, back in even 2014 when we went on to win the League Cup. Alloa took us all the way to penalties at home as well. So sometimes home ties don't.
And Athletic as well took us to extra time.
Of course. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Last round as well, fully deserved to take us to extra time as well. I'll put that in there as well. But so interesting to see how this goes, and if there is, as you rightly say, any complacency towards this tie, because there might be complacency in the stands from fans, but you're absolutely right. Jim Goodwin and the players cannot be complacent, because I'm sure Thistle have the quality where needed to pounce. And one of those players that could produce the quality is Brian Graham, as he seems to be rolling back the years this season, banging in goals and getting assists for Thistle. 5 goals, 4 assists, I think it is, according to Transfer Market for me.
Yeah, I think it's 7 goals, 6 assists in all competitions as well.
Yeah, Transfer Market does like to be a bit dodgy on some of the stuff to forget some of the competitions exist.
But definitely. I think Brian Graham's good, but he misses a fair amount of sitters, and he has this he has this in the league so far. He's missed quite a few. But I think 100% he's one of our star men, but he needs to the service. I forgot the word there.
And I suppose, has he been getting the service? Because, you're a big fan of Scott Tiffany, and, he obviously got the goal at the weekend as well, and you've got Stephen Lawless on the other wing. I suppose not only do Thistle need to rely on Brian Graham not fluffing his lines on Wednesday as well, but they will also need to rely on the wingers to provide decent service and create those opportunities for Brian on Wednesday night. Yeah,
definitely. So I've got Scott Tiffany's stats up here. So he's got 3 goals and 1 assist in all competitions. And on his day, he's incredible. He can the way he beats the way he's just hyper focused on beating his man, beating his man at the beating his full back and just tearing the defence a new one, shall we say? But
he's the left-sided winger as well for Thistle, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, if any Thistle fan has watched some of Aberdeen's defending this season, and especially the Alex Cochrane chance from the weekend as well, will maybe be thinking Scott Tiffany has a good chance up against Jayden Richardson on Wednesday night as well. So maybe that gives you guys some confidence.
Yeah, definitely. His goal at the weekend, I don't know if you've seen it.
I saw your tweet of it. Very good finish.
Yeah, very good finish. It was well worked as well. But he's just I think he's been kind of off it, but I think he's been carrying it up for a bit. So it's been a few times that he's had to kind of come off, and he's been limping about. But again, on his day, he's superb. But I feel we've got quality around the park as well. So we've got Cole McKinnon, who's on loan from Rangers as well, who I think is superb. But I think the boy can go to the very top, and that's not me being biased. He's generally he's good. He's chipped in with a few assists. I've not got the exact stats, but he's chipped in with a few assists, and I think he's got a couple of goals as well to his name.
Yeah.
And another player as well. I don't know if you're probably familiar with him, because I think you were scouting him around about the same time as Harry Milne.
Yeah, well, he's actually in the notes as well. So I was keen to get your thoughts on how he's been getting on at Thistle, because I saw him, back a good 4 or 5 years ago when he was making his way through the Highland League at Cove Rangers, and obviously that's where you guys got him from. And I with the greatest of respect to Thistle, was surprised to see him go to the same league as obviously Cove were going into. I did think he would go higher, but how's Harry been getting on for you guys?
Yeah, he's been superb, but he's not the finished article. I mean, he's still getting just a full time football on Saturday. Was fantastic. Yeah. I feel like he's just. I think he's a complete package. I mean, the way he can beat a man, he's strong on the ball, and I can see him, and that's another player as well. He's 24, 25, so he's not relatively young, but he's still, not to say it in his prime, but he's still got years and years ahead of him. I definitely, it was a fantastic steal, and he's up there for signing of the season. I think Stephen Lawless is up there as well. But we've recruited well, even Aaron Muirhead, who's kind of rolling back the years. He played for us 10 years ago now, 9-10 years ago now. and he's been exceptional at the back. Kevin Holt, I think we've got quality, all over the park. I think we're well rounded all over the park, and the team gels well. We've got quality coming off the bench as well. Anton Dowd, so I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Well, I'm not, but he's got 4 goals. I think it was.
Yeah, 4 goals off the bench, and he's only played that. I think it's like 30, he's only started at 13%. I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that, but something like he's got very good stats for only for coming off the bench. You know what I mean?
So I suppose again, something if Brian Graham's not working or Aberdeen's defence is struggling, you've got options there for
definitely
coming off the bench. Because I guess where do Thistle look to hurt Aberdeen most? Would it be in that fullback areas, because that's where Aberdeen have been a bit suspect this season, but also set pieces as well as being a bit of our Achilles heel. Do you think that's something that Ian McCall will be working on ahead of the game on Wednesday?
I think Aberdeen are suffering the same as us. We've been awful at set pieces, you know what I mean? But that's where most of our goals have been conceded. Again, I don't know how many, but we've conceded silly goals, So I think the Inverness game that was televised live, and even the Dundee opening game, two of the goals we conceded were from set plays. The Inverness game again, we could have had a clean sheet. We battered them, at Firhill. Another title contender as well, and they I think it was towards the end they got a consolation goal from a corner that was avoidable. So and again the game that we played Cove, and we dropped 3 points there. Andy Considine of all people scored.
No, Mark Reynolds. Considine.
It's Mark Reynolds. That's what I forgot. I thought it was an old Aberdeen player. I don't know why I had Considine in my head, but
it is an old Aberdeen player. I'll give you that.
It was Mark Reynolds. He scored 2, and I was like, how of all people has he scored? But it's set pieces. But yeah, I think it'll be in the kind of full back area as well as the set pieces, because watching your Dundee your game against Dundee United, you were very poor, to say the least.
To say the least, indeed.
To say the least. I don't think I catched your highlights on Sunday. I probably should have. I've seen bits and bobs here and there on what I've seen on Twitter and that. But yeah, I don't think you were all credit here. You got the 3 points, but I don't think you were the best. You know what I mean, on Sunday. I think
it was just the difference really on Sunday seemed to be who could. I don't think Hearts were that good either. To be honest, they didn't look good at all. But I suppose then, obviously there's areas where Thistle can look to hurt Aberdeen. On the same hand, obviously Aberdeen have got certainly the firepower that can hurt Thistle. What would be your concern as a Thistle fan going into the game on Wednesday? I know you've said you don't want Thistle to be embarrassed, but is there players in that Aberdeen squad that you're worried about facing come Wednesday?
I say that is it Duck or Duke or something his name is?
Yeah.
Duke, I think he's a really good player. I'd probably say him. He's kind of the main one, to be honest. But definitely I'll probably say Duke. And
I think as we said before coming into this preview was whether or not that cramp that forced him off on Sunday means that he maybe has to start on the bench. I hope that his performance on Sunday definitely merits a start on Wednesday, but interesting to see how Jim Goodwin manages that. Obviously we've got Bojan Miovski, who's been in fine goal scoring form at Pittodrie this season, a bit off the boil recently, but if we don't want to start him, we've also got Christian Ramirez. Many people have seen the quality that Leighton Clarkson can provide from set pieces as well, the dead ball specialist, and Matty Kennedy as well. He's not been getting minutes. Again, another player that we can rely on if we want to change things up. Marley Watkins as well. There's a lot of pace in amongst that Aberdeen midfield that we can maybe look to exploit Thistle potentially. I didn't know Marley Watkins was still kicking a ball. I remember him about 7-8 years ago for Inverness. There's a throwback for you. But I just hope that we've been a bit slow starters at times this season, that if we can really put ourselves out there on the front foot, get a bit of pace and intensity about the game, and cause Thistle some problems. It's the age old cliche: get an early goal to calm the nerves. And I think as well, you'll probably be thinking the same. If you can keep it tight at the back for the first 10 minutes, then build into the game. God, I'm really going through all the cliches here.
I think what you're saying about getting an early goal and settle the nerves, for us, it's probably the opposite, to be honest. I think it's like try and just keep them contained and hopefully try and maybe catch them on the counter as well. But definitely. I think it's kind of like, it's like for you, it's like getting an early goal. And to be honest, I would take an early goal for us. Obviously, you would. But I think it's kind of like for Aberdeen. If you're going to say like 30, 35 minutes without a goal, you kind of start to like panic a bit, you know what I mean, and start to worry. But I don't know. I think if we concede early, I think that's when the arse will collapse. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think we'll wait and see on Wednesday night. We'll wait and see what team we'll put out as well, because McCall came out, and this is a bit worrying for us. He's come out and said that the league's kind of more important. He's come out and basically placed importance in the league rather than the League Cup, and hopefully a wee bit of mind games maybe. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But he's come out and he said that, and to be honest, he's right. The league is important, but we're one game away from Hampden. We can't. Surely we've got to play our first string squad. We played Falkirk in the cup, and it was a Challenge Cup. I'm not entirely sure what it's called now, to be honest, but it was the Challenge Cup, and we completely changed our squad, completely stripped it, and played a second string squad, and it was really bad, really, really poor. I hope we don't do that in Aberdeen. Up at Aberdeen, if we do that, then we're in for a long night.
If you do that, you'll be glad at least you didn't need to pay to get up to Aberdeen.
Yes. I just had to pay the ticket, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Thistle do, and I think you're right, McCall. I always remember in the days of time when he was Dundee United manager, from kind of my early days of supporting Aberdeen, that he used to love a bit of mind games and try and wind up the Aberdeen support as well. So it'd be good to get one up on him, and I'm sure there is a bit of mind games in there ahead of the game on Wednesday night. But Kieran, really good to get you on the show tonight to preview the game. I hope you have a good trip up to Aberdeen. I won't say I hope you have a good time at Pittodrie, because I hope it's a long night for you. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and join me tonight.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
No, absolute pleasure. And where can folk, of course, follow you on social media, for those of you that are also on Twitter?
So my Twitter handle is Kieran Ashton _1. Follow me for shite patter, you know what I mean? But
shite patter, all things Thistle, all things Scotland as well.
Yeah,
Kieran,
bad football takes.
Really enjoyed chatting to you tonight, and hope that all of you that have tuned in to this episode have enjoyed hearing back our thoughts on the weekend's win over Heart of Midlothian, the preview of our cup game as the Dons look to take one step to Hampden, and we will be back live on Thursday evening reviewing the cup game and looking ahead to the weekend's trip to Motherwell as well. So thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, see you then.